We normally have a weekly church bulletin, and in normal times it includes the names of people that we've been asked to pray for. Please remember in your prayers in sickness, Alice, Mark, Joshua, Amanda, Dora, Nancy and baby Noah, all sorts of names, some of which stay on for ages and some of which are there one week and never seem to reappear. Behind each name, of course, is a life and a story, and an acknowledgement that sometimes the burdens of life are just too heavy, too hard to carry alone. And so we pray for each other, because prayer is a way of helping, and you can go on doing it for someone else even when you have no other way you can help. Again, for a third time, Jesus trips and falls over. I imagine a pothole or a pebble, something trivial that would normally cause no problems, except that Jesus has already been tormented and flogged, and now, exhausted and scared, it takes hardly anything else to add another pointless indignity to his journey. They say that money makes money. If you've got plenty, then it's easier to make plenty more. But you can't help noticing that sometimes the same is true of grief too. The more you've got, the more you get. A nasty, sharp, pointless, utterly pointless fall over a stupid cobblestone that you feel like picking up and hurling angrily into space. Most of the people lining the pavements in Jerusalem on that day probably didn't really know much about the circumstances. I suppose they could well have heard of some of the gossip, the preacher, the odd fellow down from the unfashionable north, come to cause trouble in the big league, or, as other reports had it, a good man, someone who healed people and even amazed them with his sermons and insights, but also the bringer of a false dawn, the idealist who got people excited but then disappointed them. So here's the lesson: you can't really change the world, no matter how good you are, unless you happen to have an army behind you, certainly not a bunch of assorted misfits from Galilee to lead the revolution and chuck out the Romans. Or, if you even dare whisper such heresy, Caiaphas and the high priests with their grand robes in the temple. That lesson's probably right. Think of all the heroes you might know: Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Greta Thunberg. Doesn't really matter. The world doesn't stop because they speak. Didn't really even stop because of Good Friday. The Romans still ruled. In fact, with a strange twist of irony, they destroyed the temple themselves 30 years or so after Jesus' death. But in a sense, we don't pray because it changes the world. We don't stop praying because Mark and Dora have been on our bulletin sheet on the sick list for the last 133 Sundays in a row, and they still don't seem to have been cured. No, we pray and we act because of who God is. My God, why have you abandoned me? Even Jesus will pray that prayer very soon now. But better to pray it, to shout it out to the sky, than to give up on trusting in God. Lord, you know already the people that we pray for. You know better than we do what they need. And in your passion, bowed down and hurt, you know exactly what you are doing. We praise you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world.